Tensions rise on the open sea as America's most advanced warships find themselves closely monitored by Chinese vessels. This isn't just an ordinary encounter. It's a high-stakes standoff involving military power, cutting-edge technology, and the nuances of international law. When a Chinese spy ship trails a U.S. Navy carrier group, it sets off a chain of actions, each move critical in maintaining control and avoiding escalation. The stage is set for a showdown, but how do these superpowers manage these sensitive encounters at sea? Let's dive in. It's not just a matter of ships passing in the night. When a Chinese spy ship begins to shadow a U.S. Navy carrier group, the situation can escalate quickly. What happens next is a series of meticulously planned actions designed to maintain control, gather intelligence, and prevent tensions from spiraling out of hand. As soon as the radar picks up an unidentified vessel approaching the carrier group, alarms go off on the bridge. The crew quickly begins assessing the threat. Using their advanced radar systems, such as the AN/SPY-1 phased array radar, they track the vessel from over 100 nautical miles away. Every movement is watched carefully as the tension rises on board. Could this be a routine patrol, or something more sinister? The radar isn't the only tool the crew relies on. Advanced optical and infrared sensors are deployed to gather visual confirmation of the ship's identity, even through fog or low visibility. These systems provide the first clear images of the approaching vessel. It's unmistakably a Chinese surveillance ship. Now, the stakes have changed. Initiating communication. With identification confirmed, communication becomes the next critical step. The crew follows strict protocols, broadcasting on international frequencies to establish contact. This is the United States Navy carrier, conducting lawful operations in international waters. They announce calmly, "Please identify yourself and state your intentions." The professionalism in their tone is deliberate. Any misstep could escalate the situation. But the lack of response only adds to the tension. On the Chinese ship, there's no immediate reply. The silence is unsettling. Could this be a sign of an intentional provocation? The crew's training kicks in as they maintain communication protocols, ready for any scenario. This is no ordinary encounter. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy isn't just sitting idle. Electronic warfare specialists get to work, monitoring the Chinese vessel's emissions. Every radar signal, every transmission, is meticulously analyzed. The carrier's electronic warfare systems like the AN/SLQ-32 scan for potential threats, all while gathering critical intelligence on the ship's capabilities. Has the Chinese ship revealed something new about its surveillance technology? To expand their view, the crew launches the E-2 Hawkeye, an airborne early warning aircraft that circles overhead. This gives them an even wider view of the area, ensuring no other vessels or aircraft are hiding nearby. It's a carefully coordinated ballet of advanced technology and human expertise. Despite the close watch, the carrier group remains focused on its mission. Even with the Chinese spy ship nearby, the U.S. Navy refuses to be distracted. The carrier group continues its operations, whether it's missile defense drills or navigation exercises. However, subtle adjustments are made to protect sensitive information. The crew knows the Chinese ship is gathering intelligence of its own, and the U.S. Navy isn't about to give away any advantage. Monitoring and information gathering. Once the Chinese vessel is identified, the U.S. Navy's response pivots to precision monitoring. Every movement of the spy ship is tracked, and every signal it emits is scrutinized to gather as much intelligence as possible without breaching the bounds of international law. This isn't just a routine observation. It's a comprehensive effort to anticipate the next move and stay ahead of potential threats. Central to this effort is the carrier's advanced radar system, capable of tracking dozens of targets simultaneously. As the Chinese ship continues its slow advance, the radar locks on, providing a clear picture of its speed, direction, and proximity. But while radar paints part of the picture, the Navy's intelligence-gathering process goes much deeper than surface-level observations. The carrier's electronic warfare systems activate, quietly listening for any signals the Chinese ship might emit. Whether it's radar pings or encrypted communications, everything is captured, analyzed, and cross-referenced with known Chinese tactics. The AN/SLQ-32 system stands ready, not just as a passive listener, but as a tool for countermeasures if necessary. However, the goal isn't provocation. It's to gather information while keeping tensions at a manageable level. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy deploys its eyes in the sky. The E-2 Hawkeye takes to the air, extending the carrier group's field of vision far beyond the horizon. Its spinning radar dome continuously sweeps the area, providing real-time updates on any additional threats that might be lurking nearby. The surveillance isn't limited to just the Chinese vessel. The entire area is under close watch, ensuring that nothing escapes the carrier group's attention. Below deck, intelligence analysts work in tandem with these technological systems. As data streams in, it's their job to piece together a complete understanding of the situation. Has the Chinese ship exhibited any unusual behaviors? Is there anything in its electronic signature that suggests new technology or an updated strategy? These are the questions that drive the analysis, and every detail matters. The intelligence gathered here will shape not only the immediate response but also future encounters. One critical aspect that guides every decision is international law. The U.S. Navy must remain firmly within legal boundaries, ensuring that its intelligence-gathering efforts don't cross the line into provocation. This balance is a delicate one. Pushing too far could escalate the situation, but gathering insufficient intelligence could leave the carrier group vulnerable. It's not just a solo effort either. Allied vessels operating nearby, from countries like the Philippines and France, contribute their own intelligence. This coordination allows the U.S. Navy to create a comprehensive network of surveillance, with each ship providing a different perspective on the Chinese spy vessel. The shared data enhances the overall picture, ensuring that no detail is overlooked. As the hours tick by, the carrier group continues its monitoring efforts, always looking for new developments. The goal isn't just to observe, but to stay ahead, understanding not just what the Chinese ship is doing now, but what it might do next. Each piece of data collected brings the U.S. Navy one step closer to anticipating the ship's next move, ensuring that they remain firmly in control of the situation. Maintaining mission objectives. Despite the looming presence of the Chinese spy ship, the U.S. Navy's mission doesn't falter. The carrier group, led by one of America's most powerful warships, presses on with its objectives, each movement carefully calculated to ensure both safety and strategic success. This is not a moment for hesitation. This is where the Navy's professionalism and resolve truly shine. The U.S. Navy has one clear message: nothing changes. Whether it's freedom of navigation exercises, joint operations with allies, or simply maintaining a visible presence in international waters, the mission remains on course. The presence of the Chinese vessel does not shift their priorities. The Navy's goal is to reinforce the principle that international waters are just that, international, and that no single nation can dictate who passes through them. But behind the scenes, subtle adjustments are being made. The carrier's operations continue as planned, but certain maneuvers are executed with the Chinese spy ship's prying eyes in mind. Key exercises, such as missile tests or sensitive communications drills, might be delayed or moved to a less accessible location, limiting the value of any intelligence the spy ship could gather. The U.S. Navy is always one step ahead, ensuring that while the mission remains on track, no critical information is leaked. It's a delicate balance, maintaining the mission without giving too much away. Emission control procedures are tightened, reducing the carrier group's electronic signature to prevent the spy ship from gaining insights into U.S. capabilities. Surveillance aircraft and drones may be rerouted to ensure that critical operations remain concealed. It's a game of cat and mouse, where the carrier's every move is designed to show strength while revealing as little as possible. And the crew is well versed in this game. They've seen it before, and they know how to navigate these waters, literally and figuratively. Throughout all of this, the professionalism of the Navy's sailors never wavers. There's no panic, no unnecessary aggression, just a steady focus on the task at hand. Every crew member, from the bridge to the engine room, remains committed to the mission. The presence of the Chinese ship is little more than a minor complication in the grand scheme. The Navy's resolve remains unshaken, a constant reminder that no amount of surveillance can deter them from their goals. Collaboration with allies. In these high-stakes encounters, the U.S. Navy rarely operates alone. Collaboration with allies forms a cornerstone of its strategy. especially when facing surveillance from adversarial forces like the Chinese spy ship. The multinational presence in the region not only bolsters the Navy's operational capacity, but also complicates the surveillance efforts of those seeking to gather intelligence. Take, for example, the joint operations between the U.S. and its Philippine and French counterparts during a recent naval exercise. Each nation brought its own strengths to the table, creating a more comprehensive and layered defense. The U.S. carrier group might lead the operation, but its success lies in the seamless integration with its allied forces. The French frigates, equipped with advanced radar systems, monitor one side of the battle group, while Philippine patrol vessels extend the network of detection and defense. Each allied vessel provides its own perspective, making it nearly impossible for the Chinese spy ship to effectively gather intelligence without being noticed by multiple parties. This collaborative approach significantly complicates surveillance for the Chinese. Instead of focusing solely on the U.S. ships, the spy vessel must track multiple targets, each equipped with advanced detection systems. The more complex the task, the less effective the Chinese efforts become. This layered presence serves as both a shield and a message. U.S. allies are prepared, united, and capable of responding to any potential threat. Information gathering also benefits from this collaboration. Allied ships and aircraft coordinate their surveillance data, sharing real-time intelligence about the movements and activities of the Chinese spy ship. Each ship and aircraft is equipped with its own radar, sonar, and communication systems, creating a multinational intelligence sharing network. Together, they can paint a clearer picture of the Chinese vessel's capabilities and intentions, while maintaining the upper hand in both defense and strategy. In moments of heightened tension, this joint effort also strengthens mutual defense protocols. Should any escalation occur, these coordinated forces are ready to respond as a single, cohesive unit. Whether it's through intelligence sharing, collaborative maneuvers, or combined military drills, the U.S. Navy's partnerships with allies enhance its ability to manage these delicate encounters, while sending a clear signal to those watching. They are not alone in this battle. International law and freedom of navigation. The encounters between U.S. Navy carrier groups and Chinese vessels occur within the complex framework of international maritime law. At the heart of these operations lies the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, which governs the rights and responsibilities of nations in their use of the world's oceans. The treaty, often referred to as the Constitution for the Seas, outlines various maritime zones and the legal principles that ensure freedom of navigation across international waters. The United States, although not a formal signatory to UNCLOS, operates in accordance with many of its provisions as they have become part of customary international law. One key principle enshrined in UNCLOS is the right to innocent passage. This allows ships from all nations, including military vessels, to navigate through territorial waters of other states, provided they do not pose a threat to peace or security. In these encounters, U.S. Navy ships exercise this right, moving through waters where they are legally permitted to sail under international law. This includes the freedom to operate within exclusive economic zones, EEZs, which extend up to 200 nautical miles from a nation's coastline. The South China Sea is a key theater for these freedom of navigation operations. China, through its controversial Nine-Line claim, asserts sovereignty over nearly the entire South China Sea, far exceeding the internationally recognized limits set by UNCLOS. This claim overlaps with the EEZs of several other countries, including the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. The U.S., along with many other nations, rejects China's expansive claims, seeing them as a direct challenge to freedom of navigation. To counter these claims, the U.S. Navy regularly conducts freedom of navigation operations, FONOPs, in the South China Sea. These operations involve sailing U.S. warships within 12 nautical miles of artificial islands built by China or contested features, effectively demonstrating that the U.S. does not recognize China's claims to these waters as sovereign territory. Such operations are meticulously planned to adhere to international law while also sending a clear political message. The U.S. will not allow any country to unlawfully restrict access to international waters. During these FONOPs, U.S. Navy carrier groups like the ones under surveillance continue their lawful operations, even under close watch by Chinese vessels. Their mission is not simply to challenge China's claims, but to reaffirm the legal principle that no nation has the right to control international waters. This assertion of maritime rights is critical, not only for the U.S. but for other nations whose economies depend on free and open sea lanes for global trade. As these encounters unfold, the U.S. remains committed to upholding international law. It operates within the bounds of UNCLOS, while also demonstrating its resolve to protect maritime freedoms. Through these operations, the U.S. Navy reasserts the global order at sea, ensuring that international waters remain free for all. The growing naval encounters between the U.S. and China are not isolated incidents. They are part of a broader geopolitical struggle that extends well beyond the waters of the South China Sea. These encounters are more than just tense military standoffs. They are symbolic of a shifting balance of power in the Indo-Pacific and the world. As both nations expand their naval operations and compete for influence, the stakes of each encounter are increasingly high, making these events critical in shaping future global strategies. At the core of this geopolitical tension is the rapidly growing naval competition between the United States and China. For decades, the U.S. Navy has maintained dominance in key maritime regions, particularly in the Indo-Pacific. However, China's military modernization, particularly its naval buildup, has altered the balance of power. The People's Liberation Army Navy, PLAN, is now the world's largest by fleet size, rapidly modernizing with advanced aircraft carriers, destroyers, and nuclear-powered submarines. These developments challenge the U.S. Navy's supremacy in the region, leading to a new era of strategic rivalry on the high seas. The South China Sea, in particular, has become a testing ground for new naval technologies and tactics. Both sides are utilizing these encounters to gather intelligence, refine their strategies, and assess the operational effectiveness of their advanced military technologies. China's surveillance ships and submarines frequently shadow U.S. carrier groups, gathering critical data on the U.S. Navy's operational protocols, radar systems, and communications networks. In response, the U.S. Navy deploys its anti-submarine warfare technologies, sophisticated radar systems, and stealth capabilities to counter these surveillance efforts. Every encounter, whether tense or relatively routine, provides both nations with valuable insights into the other's capabilities. Geopolitical implications. These naval contests are not just about military might, they are also deeply tied to national ambitions and long-term geopolitical objectives. For China, expanding its presence in the South China Sea is about asserting dominance over crucial trade routes and establishing itself as a global maritime power. The strategic location of the South China Sea, through which trillions of dollars of trade flow annually, makes it a critical point of interest. By increasing its naval presence in these contested waters, China seeks to secure economic and strategic advantages, while simultaneously challenging the U.S.'s long-standing influence in the region. On the other hand, the United States sees these encounters as an essential part of maintaining the freedom of navigation, a fundamental principle of international maritime law that allows ships to travel freely through international waters. The U.S. also aims to reassure its allies in the region, such as Japan, South Korea, and Australia, that it remains committed to countering China's growing influence. Each naval encounter thus serves as a reminder of the U.S.'s determination to safeguard its leadership role in the Indo-Pacific and to preserve the international order based on established maritime norms. The long-term geopolitical consequences of these encounters could have far-reaching effects on global stability. If tensions continue to escalate, the risk of a more significant military confrontation becomes increasingly real. Even minor miscalculations or unintentional provocations during these encounters could quickly spiral into larger conflicts with devastating consequences for both nations, as well as for the broader Indo-Pacific region. The possibility of an arms race, driven by both nations' desire to outpace each other in naval technology, could also exacerbate global instability. However, it's not all doom and gloom. Diplomatic mechanisms like the Code for Unplanned Encounters at Sea exist to de-escalate tensions and reduce the chances of accidental conflict. Regular communications between the U.S. and Chinese military leaders have been established to avoid misunderstandings. Yet, the effectiveness of these measures remains uncertain, as both sides continue to operate aggressively in contested waters. Strategic and military implications. The military and strategic implications of these naval encounters between the US and China are far-reaching, influencing not just the immediate tactical situation, but also shaping the future of naval warfare. Both sides recognize the significance of these encounters as they offer valuable opportunities to gather intelligence and refine naval tactics. Each confrontation at sea is not just about territorial control, but a window into each other's military capabilities and strategic intentions. For the U.S. Navy, maintaining dominance in contested waters like the South China Sea is crucial for upholding global maritime security. These encounters allow U.S. forces to evaluate China's advancements in naval technologies, particularly in surveillance and counter-surveillance. The deployment of Chinese spy ships and submarines near U.S. carrier groups provides the U.S. military with critical insights into the operational capabilities of the People's Liberation Army Navy. By observing how the Chinese vessels track and monitor U.S. movements, the U.S. Navy gains a better understanding of China's intelligence-gathering techniques and overall strategic goals. On the flip side, the plan uses these encounters to assess the response times and tactical procedures of the U.S. Navy. By shadowing U.S. carrier groups and testing the limits of their anti-surveillance measures, China gathers intelligence that could inform future naval engagements. Every radar ping, every course correction, and every communication sent during these standoffs provides both nations with vital data that could shape their future naval strategies. These interactions at sea, although not always hostile, function as real-time military exercises, with both sides constantly learning from each other. The long-term military implications of these encounters are particularly significant in terms of technological advancements. The ongoing cat-and-mouse game between U.S. and Chinese naval forces is driving the development of more advanced anti-surveillance and counter-surveillance technologies. Both nations are investing heavily in electronic warfare systems, radar-evading techniques, and unmanned aerial and underwater vehicles designed to gather intelligence without detection. The need to remain a step ahead in naval warfare is pushing both the U.S. and China to innovate rapidly, ensuring that their fleets are equipped with the latest technological advancements. Looking forward, these encounters will likely continue to influence naval doctrine on both sides. The U.S. may place a greater emphasis on electronic warfare and stealth technologies to counter China's increasingly sophisticated surveillance capabilities. Meanwhile, China's Navy is likely to continue expanding its surveillance fleet and refining its ability to shadow U.S. forces, all while developing countermeasures to the U.S. Navy's intelligence-gathering tools. These interactions are not merely isolated incidents, but are part of a broader strategic competition that will shape the future of naval warfare in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. As these tense encounters between the U.S. and Chinese navies continue, the stakes remain incredibly high. Each naval maneuver could shift the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific region, with both sides testing each other's capabilities and strategies. What does the future hold for these maritime standoffs? Will they lead to open conflict or a new era of naval dominance? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned for more in-depth coverage of global naval strategies.